Okay, guys, we are now on the last question of this paper. Okay, so let's just look at this. It says, Table 4 below shows the number of households that have access to amenities, which are services, in their house. Some of the data have been omitted. Okay, which is, we can see is number H. Well, not number H, letter H. Okay, so the amenities that we're looking at are flush toilets, tap water, and electricity. Okay, and it tells you here as a percentage of the households in each of these years, what percentage of those households have this service. Okay, so it's possible for a household to have all three of them, right? Like I have a flushing toilet and tap water and electricity, right? So I'm very privileged because I have all of those, okay? But not everyone has all of those. So what's also important here, right, is that the total at the bottom, okay, the total households at the bottom, okay, is not just the sum of all of the ones above it, right? Because the total at the bottom represents 100% of households, whereas each of these represents a percentage, right, of households that have this specific amenity, okay? But as I said, some households will fall into each of these categories, okay? So we don't want to double count them, okay? And that's why it's important to see that this is not just a sum of these. It's saying how many households are there, and then what percentage of this household, of these number of households, have each of these different services. Okay, it's important to view it that way. Another thing that's important is we see that the total, right, here is always greater than what's in the table, right? So only 60% of people have flush toilets in 2011, right? And that shows that it's 60% of this, okay, of this total. So this total at the bottom should always be bigger than the individual amounts in the table. Okay, it's important to understand what we get given, but also remember if you don't understand it initially, that's okay. The questions often help us understand. Okay, so let's just jump in and smash this question. So it says, to determine H in the table, two learners provided the following calculations. So Ian did this one and Neo did this one. Okay, or Neo, I'm not sure how you say it. Okay, so give the name of the person whose answer was incorrect. Okay, now based on what I said earlier, I said whatever's at the bottom here is always bigger than the individual amounts in the table. We see that in these two columns, right? So H we know has to be bigger than 10. Can't be less than 10, right? So we know automatically that Neo is wrong because he's saying the total number of households is 8 million. But then the table tells us that only 80% of households have electricity. So how can it be 10 million? Doesn't make sense, right? So it has to be Ian who's correct because he's saying the total number of households is 12.5, right? Which is more than 10 million. So then it makes sense that only 80% of them have electricity, which is 10 million. So the person that is incorrect is Neo or Neo. Okay. So that's just testing whether you understand how to read the data table. Then it says here, the average expenditure for the 4.3.2 on electricity per household was 125 Rand per month, and for tap water was 98 Rand per month. Calculate in millions the total that was spent by all the households on electricity and tap water in 2011. Okay, so we are looking, I'm just going to get a little highlighter to just alert us to what column we're looking at. Okay, and we're looking at tap water and electricity. So we know that, I'm just going to put this little table here. So it's 125 Rand for electricity, and for tap water, this is per month, right? Per month. And for tap water, it's 98 Rand per month. Okay, do you see that? Perfect. Okay. But now let's do it for the number of households that have electricity and tap water in 2011, right? So the number of households, right, that have tap water is 10.6 million. And the number of households that have electricity is 12.2 million. Okay, so let's calculate what this would be as a cost for all the households per month. So I'm doing the per month electricity. Okay, PM electricity. I'll just make up these symbols. You don't have to use them. It just helps me. If they confuse you, please don't use them. Okay, so I'm saying 125 times 12.2. Okay, so what that's telling me, right, is it's going to cost me, I'm just trying to think, is this in millions now? Yes, it is. So it's going to cost me 1,525, right, million. That's how much it's going to cost me for electricity. Per month for tap water, it's going to be 90. Oh, sorry. It's going to be, I'm just going to times those two like I did over there. And it's going to be 98 times 10.6, right? Which gives me 1038.8 million. And just to remind yourself, put a little rand sign in front of that, right? Because that is how much it is, right? In rands, it's money. We're paying for it, right? So, but this is only per month, right? As we indicated by the PM. But the question asks us for the whole of 2011, right? So we have to multiply each of these by 12, okay? So I'm going to then say per year is going to equal 1525 times 12. And I'm just going to do that. Oh, sorry. Per year for that is going to equal, right, times 12. So we have to multiply each of these by 12, right? Because they want the actual cost in years, okay? I mean per year. They don't want it per month, they want it per year. So that's how much it's going to cost for electricity in the year of 2011. Let's do the same for tap water. Okay, these questions can sometimes get a little bit tricky. Like you can even hear, like I'm doing this quite slowly so that I don't confuse myself, right? Because it's very easy to confuse ourselves because we went from an amount per household per month, then we went to an amount, right, per month for all households. Then we did an amount per year for all households, right? And now all we need to do is add these two together for the amount per year. So I'm saying per year for electricity and tap water is going to be that 18 number plus this other number that I just calculated here, right? So we're going to add this together. Okay, make sure that you always write it out correctly. Okay, and it's going to be this amount here, right? So it's going to cost 30,765.6 million rand for electricity and tap water for these households in 2011. Now, it's important here, right, that the people that pay for electricity per month are only the people that have electricity, right? So we use that 12.2. And for tap water, we times it by the number of people that have tap water. We can't times it by all the households because not all the households have water, right? It's only by those who are actually paying. That's important. So let's just go over it one more time. We went from per month to a per month for all households because that was per month per household and this was per month for all households. We did that both for electricity and tap water. Then we went to a per year version. So we times it by 12. We times it by 12 because it's per month, right? And there's 12 months in a year. To get from month to year, we have to times by 12. And then we added them together to get the total cost for those who use electricity and tap water in their households over the year of 2011. Okay, so that was a little bit tricky and it wasn't even for that many marks, right? But we just have to be quite methodical in our approach, okay? And if you don't understand that, just go over it, replay what I've done, right? And try do it slowly and even pause it possibly and redo the calculation so that you understand what's going on, okay? So let's move on to the last question of this paper, guys. So it says the graphs below show the same data for the number of households that have access to tap water, okay? But you see they look very different, don't they, right? Graph A makes it look like there's a big jump. And graph B makes it look like it's pretty standard, right? So it says, give one reason for the difference in the length of bars for each of the graphs. Now, what's important whenever you look at graphs is to see where the scale starts, okay? So you see here that the scale starts at 60% and goes to 90%, right? So we know that what we're actually doing is we're kind of looking at the same graph B, but we've like cut it, right? We kind of cut it, right? we've basically said we don't care about anything that's under 60%. We only care about things that are above 60%. And that leads to this different way of viewing a graph. Okay, so what's important and what is the impact and what causes this different look in these two graphs is the scale, right? So one reason for the difference, it's different scales, right? Different scales are used, okay? One is 60 to 90, the other one's 0 to 120. So this shows more because it shows everything below 60. Here, it only shows everything above 60, okay? And that is why those two things are different, okay? So what they're testing here is whether you can interpret a graph and whether you can actually see what a graph is telling you, okay? So that is the end of this paper, guys. I hope you found that helpful, and best of luck for your exams.